The rain was pouring heavily that evening, turning the city streets into slippery mirrors reflecting the neon lights above. Inside a sleek, glass-walled office atop one of the tallest skyscrapers, Amelia Chun, a successful CEO in her mid-30s, worked late as usual. Her company's quarterly report was due the next morning, and she refused to leave until every detail was perfect. As she packed up her laptop, a sudden bang echoed through the empty office hallway. Her heart skipped a beat. Before she could react, the door burst open, and a masked intruder stormed in. "Give me everything now," the intruder shouted, waving a gun. Amelia froze. Her mind raced. She was alone. She had no one to call. Her legs shook uncontrollably. "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk," she begged, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't lying. She had injured her leg during a recent hiking accident and was still recovering. For a moment, the intruder hesitated, clearly frustrated. And then, unexpectedly, the office door opened wider, and a tall figure stepped in. It was Lucas Grant, a single dad who had recently started working in the building security division. Calm, composed, and unafraid, he approached the intruder. "What do you think you're doing?" Lucas asked firmly, his voice steady. The intruder laughed nervously, but the moment he met Lucas's gaze, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. It was a gaze that spoke of someone who had nothing to fear, yet everything to lose. The gaze of a man who would do anything to protect the innocent. And in that moment, Amelia realized her life might just change, not because of a business deal or her corporate power, but because of the courage of a single dad who appeared out of nowhere. The intruder froze, staring at Lucas. His confidence, which had seemed so strong just moments ago, now wavered. Lucas moved slowly, deliberately, his eyes never leaving the masked figure. "Drop the gun," Lucas said, his voice calm but commanding. "You don't want this to get worse." Amelia, still clutching her injured leg, tried to move backward but winced in pain. She whispered, almost to herself, "Please, just make him go." The intruder's hands trembled. Sweat ran down his forehead as he glanced between Amelia and Lucas. Something in Lucas's presence, a silent, unshakable strength, made the man hesitate. And then, with a frustrated growl, the intruder turned and fled, disappearing into the stormy night. Lucas quickly closed the door and turned to Amelia. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling down to check her injured leg. His hands were gentle, but there was an unmistakable firmness in his tone that made her feel safe, something she hadn't felt in years. I think so," Amelia stammered, her voice shaking. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come." Lucas helped her stand, supporting her weight. "You don't have to thank me. Just don't try to be a hero alone next time." Amelia looked up at him, really looked. For the first time in a long time, she felt vulnerability without fear, and something in her chest shifted. She realized that behind this man's calm exterior was someone who had faced life's hardships and survived. Someone whose strength wasn't just physical, but emotional as well. "I owe you my life," she said softly, embarrassed by how shaken she still felt. Lucas smiled faintly. "You don't owe me anything, but maybe you owe yourself to be more careful." As the rain continued to pour outside, Amelia and Lucas stood in the quiet office, the adrenaline fading, leaving only a strange, undeniable connection. It was the kind of moment that would change both of their lives forever, though neither of them realized it yet. Little did Amelia know, this terrifying night was only the beginning of a story that would challenge her limits, test her trust, and eventually open her heart to something she never expected. The next morning, Amelia could hardly focus on work. Her mind kept drifting back to Lucas, the calm, unshakable man who had appeared just in time to save her. She replayed every moment, his steady gaze, the way he had approached the intruder without hesitation, and the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from him. But there was little time for reflection. Her office was now a crime scene, and the police had questions. Detectives came and went, scribbling notes and examining fingerprints. Amelia gave her statement, but her eyes kept searching for a familiar figure in the building lobby. Lucas, of course, wasn't there, Meanwhile, Lucas returned to his own small apartment, exhausted but restless. Being a single dad was never easy, and the memory of Amelia's terrified expression haunted him. He had faced danger before, both on the streets and in his past life, but something about that moment stayed with him. It wasn't just the fear, it was the urgency of protecting someone who didn't even know him, yet felt completely alone. Later that afternoon, Lucas's phone buzzed. A message from his daughter, Lily. "Daddy, did you help a lady today?" She looked really scared. Lucas smiled faintly, typing back, "Yes, sweetheart. Everything's okay now." Meanwhile, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that she had to know more about him. Who was this man who walked into her life like a storm and left such an imprint? She asked the building security office and discovered something surprising. Lucas Grant, the single dad, had been quietly protecting the building for years, but he was rarely seen or recognized. He wasn't just a security officer. He was someone who had faced the world's harshest realities and survived, carrying scars that no one could see. Curiosity turned into a quiet admiration, and admiration into a subtle, growing trust she hadn't felt in years. For Amelia, it was the first crack in the armor she had built around herself. The armor of a CEO who always had to be in control. Later that evening, Lucas returned home to find Lily waiting with a small, hand-drawn card. "To Daddy, my hero." He hugged her tightly, and for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he could help someone else in a different way. Someone who needed him more than just physically, but emotionally too. Little did they both know, the intruder wasn't finished. Someone had noticed the failed robbery, and the events of that night would soon spiral into a dangerous chain that neither Lucas nor Amelia could have imagined. The following week, Amelia tried to regain a sense of normalcy. She returned to the office, her leg healed enough to walk without crutches, but a lingering unease remained. Every creak of the elevator, every shadow in the hallway, made her heart race. She couldn't shake the memory of that masked intruder, the fear that someone had wanted to hurt her for reasons she didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Lucas was keeping a closer watch than usual. Something about the intruder's hesitation had unsettled him. Most criminals either fled completely or fought to the bitter end, but this one had hesitated, almost as if he had been expecting someone else to intervene. Late one night, Amelia was working alone again. Her office was dimly lit, the city skyline glittering through the windows. The sound of footsteps echoed outside her door. Instinctively, she froze. Before she could react, Lucas appeared at the doorway, flashlight in hand. "I told you not to work alone," he said softly, his eyes scanning the room. Amelia laughed nervously, though her pulse was racing. I thought it would be fine." Lucas shook his head. "It's never just fine." Just then, a shadow moved along the corridor outside. A figure in black slipped past the security cameras, silent and swift. Lucas's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed Amelia's arm and pulled her behind the desk, shielding her. The intruder from before had returned, and this time, he wasn't alone. "What do you want from me?" Amelia shouted, panic rising. The masked man stepped forward, a sinister grin barely visible through the darkness. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he hissed. Lucas positioned himself between Amelia and the intruder, his body tense like a coiled spring. "I don't care what you want," he said. "Leave her alone, or you'll regret it." The intruder lunged, but Lucas was ready. He blocked the attack, using his strength and agility to disarm the man. Amelia watched in awe as he fought with precision and control, every move deliberate. When the struggle ended, the intruders had fled again, but the message was clear. They would be back. Amelia realized for the first time that she was no longer just a bystander in her own life. With Lucas by her side, she felt a mixture of fear and hope. Fear for what was coming, and hope that she had found someone she could truly rely on as the night settled into silence. Lucas helped her to her feet. "We need to be ready," he said. "This isn't over." Amelia nodded, her fear replaced by a determination she hadn't known she possessed. She had survived once, but now she knew she wouldn't survive the next attack alone. The next morning, Amelia arrived at her office with a new sense of purpose. The fear from the previous nights lingered, but it had been replaced by a determination to understand why someone wanted to hurt her. She couldn't rely on luck alone. She needed answers. Lucas was already waiting outside her office when she arrived. "I've checked the building's cameras and surrounding streets," he said. "The intruders aren't amateurs. Someone planned this carefully." Amelia frowned. "But why me? I'm just a cell. I haven't made enemies recently, at least none that I know of." Lucas studied her. "That's what makes this dangerous. When someone targets you without reason, it's personal, or it's about something bigger than you, something you're connected to, even if you don't realize it." Determined to find the truth, Amelia and Lucas began reviewing security footage and internal company files. They worked late into the night, the office now their battlefield for knowledge instead of physical confrontation. Finally, they found a clue. One of the intruders had been seen visiting a company supplier several months ago, someone Amelia had fired for embezzlement. It wasn't just a random act of violence. It was revenge that Amelia's heart sank. "So this isn't just about me personally, it's about the company." Lucas nodded. "Exactly. Whoever this is, they're sending a message. But we can use that. They're sloppy. They make mistakes, and we just need to be smarter." As they strategized, something unexpected happened. Amelia realized she trusted Lucas completely. In the midst of fear, adrenaline, and danger, she felt a connection she hadn't felt in years. Someone who truly had her back, someone who wouldn't just save her in a moment of crisis, but fight alongside her. Hours later, Lucas escorted Amelia home. On the quiet streets, rain softly falling, Amelia finally spoke. "Lucas, I know we've only known each other a short time, but I don't know what I would do without you." Lucas smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "You don't have to. I'm not going anywhere." But even as they shared this moment of trust, shadows were already gathering. The intruders weren't working alone, and the revenge they sought was far more dangerous than Amelia could have imagined. The calm before the storm was ending, and soon, everything Amelia had built, her career, her life, her safety, would be at stake. It had been 2 weeks since the second intrusion, but Amelia's life had not returned to normal. Every knock on her office door, every unexpected visitor made her jump. She had security upgrades installed, but the fear lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake. Lucas had stayed close, monitoring the building and even helping her review her daily schedule. His presence was reassuring, but it also reminded her how vulnerable she truly was. Then one evening, as Amelia left the office late, she noticed a black SUV parked suspiciously across the street. The engine idled, but the tinted windows made it impossible to see inside. Her heart thumped, and she froze. "Stay calm," Lucas whispered behind her. "Let me handle this." Before she could respond, 2 masked figures stepped out of the SUV and approached. Amelia instinctively tried to run, but the pain in her leg, still tender from her earlier injury, slowed her down. Lucas didn't hesitate. He moved between Amelia and the attackers, his body acting as a shield. The first man swung a metal pipe, but Lucas caught it mid-strike, twisting the attacker's arm and disarming him in a swift motion. The second man lunged, but Lucas pushed Amelia to the side, taking the hit himself. A sharp pain shot through his shoulder, but he stayed on his feet. Amelia watched in shock and awe as Lucas fought with precision and determination. He wasn't just protecting her. He was fighting for their lives. Finally, the attackers retreated, leaving Lucas bruised and bleeding, but standing. Amelia rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she examined him. "You could have been killed," she whispered, panic rising. Lucas shook his head, smiling weakly despite the blood on his shirt. "Not today. Not while you're here." Amelia felt something stir deep inside her. A mix of fear, relief, and a profound gratitude. For the first time, she realized that Lucas wasn't just a protector. He was someone she could rely on completely, someone she could trust with her life. But the attack had confirmed their worst fear. The intruders weren't just after her career or company. They were after her personally. And now, Lucas wasn't just risking himself for her. He was risking everything as they walked back to her apartment, supporting each other through the night rain. Amelia knew one thing for certain. Their bond had grown stronger, and nothing would be the same again. And somewhere in the shadows, the masterminds behind the attacks were already planning their next move, unaware that their target had found someone who wouldn't let them win. The city was unusually quiet that morning, as if it too was holding its breath. Amelia couldn't focus on work, and Lucas could feel her unease. They had spent countless hours tracing the intruder's movements, reviewing security footage, and following leads, but the mastermind behind the attacks had remained elusive. Then, a breakthrough came. Lucas discovered a pattern. All previous incidents were connected to one specific investment firm that had lost millions due to a deal Amelia's company had terminated. But there was something more personal in the files, threatening emails that were not just about money, but about revenge. "That's our guy," Lucas said, showing Amelia the emails. "He's been waiting for the right moment, and he's planning something big, something that could destroy everything you've worked for, or worse." Amelia felt a chill run down her spine. "We have to stop him," she whispered, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Before anyone else gets hurt." Lucas nodded. "And we will. But we need to be smart. He's dangerous, and he knows how to hide. He's been waiting for us to make a mistake." That night, Lucas drove Amelia to a secluded warehouse he had identified through their investigation. It was the likely hideout of the mastermind. They moved silently, shadows among shadows, hearts pounding with anticipation. Inside, they found a series of monitors and computers, evidence of meticulous planning. And then, in the dim light, they saw him, the man who had orchestrated everything, sitting calmly, almost expecting them. "You're brave or foolish," the man said, his voice smooth but filled with menace. "I've been waiting for you." Lucas stepped forward, positioning himself between Amelia and the mastermind. "This ends tonight. No more games." The man smiled coldly. "Do you really think it ends with me? You have no idea the storm you've stepped into." Amelia's heart raced, but she stood her ground. For the first time, she realized that her fear had been replaced by resolve. And beside her, Lucas's presence gave her the courage she needed. In that moment, she knew that their fight wasn't just about survival. It was about justice, trust, and the bond that had grown between them through every terrifying night. The confrontation had begun, and nothing would be the same after tonight. The warehouse was silent except for the hum of the computers and the faint dripping of water from the roof. Amelia and Lucas stood side by side, hearts racing but minds focused. Every step they took was calculated. There was no room for mistakes. The mastermind leaned back in his chair, a cold smile on his face. "You've come far, but do you really think you can stop me?" Lucas stepped forward, his eyes blazing with determination. "We already have. You underestimated us. You didn't account for courage, strategy, or loyalty." In a sudden, chaotic moment, the mastermind lunged for a hidden weapon. Lucas reacted instantly, grabbing him and wrestling him to the ground. Amelia, using the knowledge they had gathered, accessed the computers and sent evidence of the man's crimes directly to the authorities. "Your time is up," Amelia said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. "It's over." Realizing he had lost, the mastermind froze as Lucas pinned him until the police arrived. Amelia's relief was overwhelming, mixed with the exhilaration of having faced danger and survived. Together, the police led the mastermind away. Amelia turned to Lucas. I don't even know how to thank you. You saved my life, and, more than that, you gave me courage I didn't know I had." Lucas smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to thank me. You found courage too. Courage to trust, to fight, to survive. That's what matters." In the days that followed, Amelia and Lucas's bond grew stronger. They spent more time together, not as a CEO and a security officer, but as two people who had faced darkness and come out the other side, stronger, braver, and connected in ways neither had expected. One evening, as they walked through the city streets, Amelia glanced at Lucas. "I used to think strength was about control, about being untouchable. Now I know it's about trust and knowing you're not alone." Lucas took her hand, squeezing it gently. "And I know I'm not alone either." The storm of threats and danger had passed, leaving behind not fear, but a bond forged in adversity. Amelia had survived not just because of Lucas, but because together they had changed everything for each other and for the lives they would share moving forward.